Fellow vets, if you've hurt your back during military service, even if you have no medical records of it occurring, I'm going to show you how to achieve a 100% permanent and total VA disability rating. Yes, that means around $4,000 per month tax-free to your pocket to support you and your family. I'm Jordan Anderson with VA Claims Academy. This is the same type of strategy that, as you're seeing just over this past week, here's a few of our customers, our clients, who have received massive ratings, most of the time a 100% rating, going through and using these tactics, okay? Again, you always hear me say, a back pain for VA ratings is a gold mine. One, because it could be easy to get service connected, even without medical records. So if you never went to the doctor during your service, like most veterans, don't worry about it. I got you. I'm going to show you how. But two, because the actual rating for it is much more than meets the eye, as I'm going to explain how to multiply and really skyrocket that rating for your back and get the rating you deserve. All right, let's get into it. So I don't know about you, but most of my clients who come to me are exhausted with the VA disability process and really are sort of discouraged from the entire thing. And I know a lot of you are watching me right now saying, Jordan, whatever, this is too good to be true. There's no way you can get this just from, a back rating, right? I'm going to unpack all of that. Trust me here. But before we get into how to increase your back rating to these levels, first we have to talk about how to get it connected to your service at all, right? You're not going to get paid anything if the VA doesn't believe that your back injury is related to your military service. So you're looking at me and saying, I never went to the doctor during service. They told us not to go to the doctor. I hear it all the time. Trust me. I believe you. The good thing is that with back conditions in particular, you could win service connection without military records in service. There's a number of ways to do this. One of my favorite ways is by leveraging your own voice through what is called a personal statement, okay? This is on form 4138. You don't have to remember that. You can just Google VA personal statement, okay? And it'll pop right up. But here's what you say. So if you were infantry, right? Maybe you were 11 Bravo, or maybe you were just doing road marches, ruck marches, carrying a heavy pack. Perhaps you hurt yourself during PT and, everyone kind of saw it, but they told you to, hey, just, rub some dirt on it. You'll be all right. These are things to include in your personal statement. Why is that? Because if you just tell your VA examiner, for instance, what is the guarantee that they're writing every single, story that you tell them on paper and this is getting to your rater? Less than 100%, right? Obviously. So if you get this down on paper onto a personal statement and you talk about your duties, right? Maybe you were heavy machinery operator. You're jumping down from heavy equipment and that impact has, added up on your back after a while. Whatever your story is about how the wear and tear or even the acute injury to your back was connected to your service, especially your job, right? We're talking your MOS, whatever your duty job was during active duty. If you were jumping out of airplanes, if you were air assault, rappelling out of helicopters, all that can give a massive boost to your odds at getting a service connected. So I can't stress that enough, vets. Tell your story, but get it on paper in the form of a personal statement, and that could really help boost your claim right off the bat. Let's get into now the specifics for how to actually boost your rating, and we'll also get into how to bulletproof in terms of the service connection. Again, how do I know this works? Just look, after 34 years, this client went from a 0% rating to a 100% rating. We got him. He's been out 34 years and had 0 in his service medical file. This stuff works. If you're getting ideas out of this video so far, hit that like button. Otherwise, let's keep learning and let's get into this. Okay, so that's the first part of getting service connected. We're going to pivot to sort of the more advanced lecture here on how to reinforce and give yourself the absolute best odds at getting your back pain service connected in as quick of time as possible. And this is going to directly plug into you getting $4,000 per month. So listen up here. We have a very advanced diagram here to illustrate this. This is you. This is the money that you and your family deserve and have earned through your service-connected disability. You just have to get the VA to see that it is indeed service-connected. How do we connect these two things? Well, I'll tell you. You're going to need a current diagnosis, okay? So a current diagnosis for your back pain, right? So let's say BP for back pain, and that's diagnosed now. The gentleman that you saw, who was a client who's been out for 34 years, okay, yeah, may not have gone to the doctor during service, but you better believe you better get your butt to the doctor now to start that paper trail now so you can start building that file, right? That paper trail. So I understand you didn't go during service, you were discouraged, totally understand, but now you got to get to the doctor because we got to get this stuff on paper. Now that you have a diagnosis for back pain, and again, you have your personal statement, or you've had, okay, me write your personal statement draft for you if you're a client, okay? What do you need next? You likely need a nexus letter. And this is where we can connect, boom, this is going to connect into here, and this is going to connect into here, and it gets you that payment. Why? Because it doesn't matter how bad your back is. A lot of veterans get so confused. Well, the VA did my surgery. Well, the VA diagnosed me with the back pain. They know how bad my back is. It doesn't matter. They're just treating you. It doesn't mean they're admitting that it's connected or due to your military service. What's the missing link here? Oftentimes, it's that nexus letter. Jordan, what is a nexus letter? Glad you asked. Very briefly, it's a doctor's note, okay? It's a note from a doctor, in this case, preferably a back specialist, that's saying, hey, it's at least as likely as not that your back pain is due to your military service or is due to a condition that is already rated at 0% or higher by the VA. Jordan, what's that mean? Let's pretend you're rated for plantar fasciitis. Let's pretend you're rated 0% for your left knee right now. You could argue, and this is what we do for clients a lot to a high degree of winnability, you could argue that your left knee is triggering what we call an abnormal gait, G-A-I-T. Basically, it's making you walk with a little bit of a limp, maybe even subperceptible. And that limp over the years, over the decades, has led to imbalance in the spine, right? This is very known among the medical literature that if you have a injury on one side, that the other side maybe starts getting injured or starts overcompensating, or that works its way up to the hips, up to the back, up to the spine. A doctor could weigh in on this for you, and it could be a very compelling opinion, and that's what this is. It's a medical opinion that goes into your official VA disability record, right? Hit that like button if this is giving you some light bulbs right now. This could be so key, especially when we're talking about it's been decades since you've been in service. A personal statement, great. And you are the one writing it, so you don't have to pay a doctor to do anything for you. Let me not do that, please. Hello. You don't have to pay a doctor out of pocket to do anything for you, so it's a very cost-effective way to start to sort of build that baseline evidence. A nexus letter is a medical document, so this could be weighted even higher, right? Especially if it's from your own doctor. That's why, again, for clients, I write nexus letter templates that you could bring to your own doctor, and they'll say, oh, thank goodness, this is already pre-written. I'm not trying to work 40 minutes for free writing you a nexus letter, right? Let me just glance over this and sign it. Boom, easy. If your own doctors refuse, or maybe they're afraid to sign nexus letters, go to vadisabilitydoctors.com. You can actually get a military veteran-friendly medical team that will actually sign the nexus letters for you and write the nexus letters for you. Problem is it's more expensive, right? You're paying for board-certified doctors' time out of pocket, and that gets pricey. So use that as a last-case scenario, but it could be worth it, okay? It could be worth it. Why is a nexus letter worth it? Because a nexus letter helps to get you service connected. It's the most potent way to get your condition, which the VA is going to believe you. You have back pain. The VA is going to know that, right? Why? Because you have a back pain diagnosis. Boom, easy. Let's move on, right? The real battlefield here and the key to getting you and your family paid what you deserve is getting that nexus, meaning service connection. How is the VA going to know that your back pain is due to service when they look in your medical record and there's just tumbleweeds flying by because it's so empty? Your medical record from service, right? We have to do that through a nexus letter. A doctor now saying, hey, this new diagnosis, yeah, probably due to their military service or probably due to their service-connected injury that we talked about, right? With the left knee causing that imbalance. I hope I drove that segment home because that's where the majority of veterans get denied, is here at service connection. So if you need to rewind this segment, if you didn't fully grasp it, or let me know if I'm not explaining it simply enough, please do so, because this is the bread and butter. Now we're going to move to the fun part, which is I'm service connected. Maybe you already have back pain for 10%, and you're looking at me saying, wait a second, I'm not getting that much, paid that much for my back pain. My back is terrible. What the heck? This is going to be for you, right? Because now you can see how we can increase and maximize this rating once it is connected to service. Let's get into it. So here we got the VA Claims Academy Disability Calculator. This is my favorite tool by far, not just because we made it, but because it's super easy and user-friendly. You're gonna see, we're gonna play around with it. It makes the VA math very easy to understand, but more importantly, you don't really have to understand it because this does the work for you. Let's get into how the back is actually rated. And once I tell you this, you're gonna be like, wow, that's it? You're either gonna be like, wow, that's it? Or wow, that's it? Let me show you why. What if you have an MRI that's showing a bulging disc? Okay, what if you have fused vertebra? And what if you just have a lumbosacral strain, one of the most common back ratings? What's the difference between all those and how they're rated in the criteria? Nothing. Fellow vets, listen to me. Stop overcomplicating your back rating. Stop overcomplicating it. I understand you've got an MRI that shows this. You got an X-ray that shows that. You've got this, crazy diagnosis. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. Why? How is the VA going to rate your back? They're going to get out one of these during your compensation and pension exam, also known as the C&P exam, okay? That's the big day. That's the day that you're going to be looked at by a VA contracted examiner, and they're going to measure your forward bend with this. This is called a goniometer, right? Hopefully you can see that all right. Let's put that right here. This is called a goniometer. Make sure the day of your C&P exam that your examiner is using a goniometer. Why do you want to make sure? Because you're signing a letter. They're going to have you put your signature on it that says that you made sure they were using one, okay? What they're measuring here, and this is how your back is rated, is your forward flexion, okay, of your thoracolumbar spine. What they're going to do here is they're going to put this end in line with your leg here, okay? So in line with your femur. They're going to have you bend forward, just like you were going to try to touch your toes, right? So you're hinging at the hips and you're bending forward. They're going to measure how far you bend forward and the degrees before you stop. And they're going to say, okay, hey, that was 29 degrees, all right? Here's the thing with that. Do you see how simple that is? Did I say anything about your MRI? Did I say anything about your diagnosis? As long as you're diagnosed with any sort of back diagnosis that's compensatable, so back pain, lumbosacral strain, herniated disc, bulging disc, degenerative disc disease, that's what they're doing. When they see how much to compensate you for back, you're doing the forward bend on the day of your C&P exam, and the degree of how far you go down during that forward bend is how your back is rated. That is it. Nothing else matters. Now, a couple of you high speed, especially you subscribers, very high speed, I see you in the comments. Very smart questions. You're saying, okay, well, there's also actually the twisting test, okay, then they might do the extension test, see how far. Okay, That's absolutely true. And why do they examine you for those as well? Because if you have a lack of range of motion, let's say twisting is really bad and your extension is really bad, but you can forward bend pretty far, they'll actually take the cumulative measurements from these other sort of examinations that they do. I'm talking about the extension, the twisting. And if it's less than, I believe, what is it, 120 degrees or less cumulatively, then you can also get a good rating for that for back, okay? So you won't be able to read this right now, but I am going to scroll to a photo, sort of an image that you will be able to see. But this is 38 CFR, okay? This is how the VA rating adjudicator is going to be rating you. I'm going to read this verbatim for the back here. This is going to be the criteria for a 40% disability rating for just back, but that's not all, okay? We're going to build on that. That's just going to be the back pain. More on that in a second, but listen here. Forward flexion of the thoracolumbar spine 30 degrees or less, okay? Forward flexion 30 degrees or less. So let me show you what the angle for that is if I hold this straight up and down, okay? 30 degrees. That's what 30 degrees is. Or an even better way to be able to tell, okay? For most people, that means that if your palms are on your thighs and you're hinging at the hips, bending forward, if you start to have pain before your fingertips touch the tops of your kneecaps without bending the knees, right? So you're just hinging at the hips, that's typically right around a 30-degree angle. Okay. Why do I say before you feel pain? Because you might be saying, well, I could push further than that. Most people with back pain, trust me, you're starting to feel it before. You could try it yourself, don't hurt yourself, but you could try it yourself. If you actually hinge at the hips, again, not bending the knees, hinging at the hips, and you slide your fingertips, you're gonna realize your kneecaps are pretty far down there. You're probably gonna start to feel that tightness beforehand. Why does that matter? Well, because the compensation and pension exam is not a football combine where you're looking to impress people and get a full ride scholarship. Or this is not something where you're taking a lawful order because you're still in the military. No, this is an examination. You're a civilian. You are not expected to go out there and hurt yourself. You're not, okay? Don't have that mindset like you're still taking orders and all that. You're finished and you've served honorably. You've given your 100% to service. Now it's time to think about, hey, it's no longer service before self. It's no longer my squadron before self. It's no longer my unit, my leadership, my brother or sister in arms before self. It's my own household before self. It's my family before self. That's the mindset switch it takes, because you have to be able to realize and have that wherewithal to know that, hey, yeah, okay, I'm in pain right here. I'm not pushing past pain. I'm not going to be in pain for the next week for this thing just to get a lower VA rating. Let me put it to you this way as well, okay? And this is going to drive it home. Whenever, and here's the photo I was talking about, thoracolumbar spine, right? So you're bending over. They might have you do this as well, okay? They call that lateral flexion. And they might have you rotate as well. But for 99% of you, it's that forward bend. That's all that matters, because a lot of these, adding up together is pretty rare in the VA rating world. Let me drive this home with a C&P exam to make sure that you don't feel like you're, showing out or something like that. I'm telling you to not push past the point of pain. And this is what I tell clients all the time. Why is that? You tell me what's a more accurate depiction of your day. You get to wake up, grab your Starbucks latte, head into your C&P exam all comfy in your slippers. Is that what your normal day-to-day looks like? Or do you have responsibilities? Maybe you have to lift heavy groceries. Maybe you have to do some gardening. Maybe you hurt yourself because you're going to the gym in the morning or whatnot. No, you actually do things during an actual day, right? And you want to let them know what it looks like when you have a flare-up, what it looks like during your worst times, what it looks like just during normal actual life, and not when you get to roll out of bed, do nothing, and do the simulated C&P exam test on a very fresh back, okay? So first point of pain, stop, and that baseline gets us a 40% rating. Here's where we have some fun. So for the back, select disability back, We have a rating, boom, 40%, very common. Most of our clients get a 40% rating. Again, if you're coming out here watching this video and you have a 10 to 20%, 30% rating for your back, we just already helped you get this increase. But watch this, it gets way better, all right? As you can see, you're at about $774 per month. Let's see if we can add on to that. Again, you're not gonna be able to read this, it's too small, don't even worry about it. I'm gonna read it for you verbatim. But let's talk about sciatica, okay? Or also known as sometimes radiculopathy, also known as neuropathy, okay? What is this? Have you ever had back pain being accompanied by maybe some tingling, some pins and needles, or even shooting pain in one or both of your legs? This is very common, okay? This is why that could be important. If yes, and again, you have a back pain rating that doesn't include extra ratings for that radiculopathy, for that sciatica, if you have a sciatica diagnosis and you're not compensated for it, but you're service connected for back pain, you're leaving a lot of cash on the table each and every month. Let me show you how much cash here, okay? The mild rating for that, peripheral neuropathy, the sciatica, right, is 10%. Woohoo, Jordan, 10%. Whoop-de-doo. No, not just 10%. 10% per leg. Not just 10% for each leg, but 10% per leg plus a bilateral factor bonus. I'll show you that in the calculator. Again, we don't have to understand it. Let the calculator do the work. You'll see what that means. I'll show you once we plug it in. That's for mild. That means that you probably didn't do a great job of explaining. For instance, if you've ever had shooting pain, I'm talking about ever, it doesn't have to be every day, you're probably not going to get a mild rating. You would get at least moderate, all right? Moderate, what is that? Moderate is 20%. Hopefully you can see here, all right? This is what I'm looking at here, that 20%. That's a 20% rating for moderate sciatica, moderate nerve pain. Again, this is in the legs. Not just 20%, 20% per leg. Not just 20% per leg, but 20% plus bilateral factor bonus. Let's go to this one. Moderately severe. So you can see there's kind of a subjective interpretation here. What's moderate versus what's moderately severe? Couldn't tell you. I could tell you though, if you had mentioned that, hey, I've had shooting pain, even if it was twice in your life, you could say, I've had shooting pain in my leg, which is an accurate statement. Then I almost never see a 10% rating. I would typically see at least a 20% for that. Moderately severe. This goes to 40%. What was your entire back rating for some pretty, significant back pain, right? That was the 40% threshold. And again, that's, stopping just before the fingertips past the kneecaps. That's most people with back pain. That's most people with back pain have pain well before the fingertips cross the kneecaps. Very attainable. But here, with moderately severe sciatic nerve pain, sciatica, neuropathy, radiculopathy, 40% rating. Not just 40% rating, 40% per leg. Not just 40% per leg, but 40% per leg plus a bilateral factor bonus. Let's do some math. What does that even look like? Watch this. We're at $774 per month just for fixing your back rating, but that's not all. If you have left leg, okay, radiculopathy, let's say it's moderate, right? Let's be conservative. That's a 20% rating there. 774, we just jumped up to 1102. But wait, it was both legs. Remember that? So let's add the right leg as well. Let's say again, just moderate. Just moderate. $1,400 per month, okay? Plus, what does this say? You can't probably read it here. It says a bilateral factor of 3.60% was applied. Okay, so that means that you just got an extra 4% because of the bilateral bonus, which I'm not gonna explain to you right now. Just know that when things are on both sides like that, yes, you can get both legs. It's not pyramiding. You actually get a bonus. It's called the bilateral factor bonus, all right? So a little bit extra there, which by the way, that bonus increases nominally as your rating for each leg increases, okay? Because it's percentage based on your legs here in this case. Now, okay, hey, $1,400 is good, Jordan. And by the way, hit the like button if this is helping you out, please. But you said 100% rating. What would that look like? Well, that would look like, let's say instead of left leg moderate, instead of right leg moderate, let's say left leg is moderately severe. What is that rating? 40% rating. Let's say right leg also, same thing, moderately severe, okay? That gets you to a $2,000 tax-free payment every single month, and that just gets more if you know if you have a spouse, if you have children, things like this. So how then does this turn into a 100% disability rating? Let me ask you a question. If you have back pain to the degree of 40%, where it's hurting just without even bending past your kneecaps, and you also have moderately severe nerve pain, peripheral neuropathy in the legs there, do you think that you are just getting up out of bed every morning, clanking your heels and having a great day mentally? Probably not, right? Doesn't mean that it has to be the worst thing in the world and that you're not grateful, you're not a positive person. I get it. But to pretend that moderately or even moderately severe back pain does not have a mental impact and mental ramifications is just silly, right? That's asinine. So then, is the VA on the hook for that? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Most commonly, especially with our clients at VAClaimsAcademy.com, that manifests itself in either some anxiety, you don't know when your next back flare-up is going to happen, depression, diagnosable, you loved doing cycles on the bike, you loved running marathons, you loved working out in the gym, now you can't get after it anymore, you feel diminished. This manifests in something called chronic pain syndrome. I have chronic pain and it bums me out, duh, right? Or even something called somatic symptom disorder, where sort of the same thing, right? So your symptoms of your nerve pain, your symptoms of your back pain, or maybe even, you can't even sleep because you're tossing and turning, your back can't get comfortable. These are all mental conditions that could be claimed secondary to that back pain that's now service connected. Remember when I told you the back pain could be service connected to that left knee at a 0% rating? Because your left knee triggered that abnormal gait. You remember that? It created that imbalance? Okay. The reason that you can connect the back to that left knee was because the left knee was already rated at 0% or higher. That is why I told you it's so important to get that back pain service connected. Why? Because now we can connect other conditions to the back pain. Why is that a beautiful thing? Why is it better to connect conditions to the back pain rather than, going back to the knee again and connecting the depression to the knee? Well, here's why. It's very commonly seen in the medical community that your back probably isn't going to get much better as you age, right? When I work for clients, I'm not just trying to get them a 100% rating to where they have to get, keep up with their treatments and fear the VA reducing them, calling them in for a surprise C&P exam in a couple of years. I'm trying to get them 100% permanent in total to where if they never want to talk to the VA again, they can have that opportunity and they're going to get the raises every single year, cost of living allowance raises. If you connect secondaries to your back, in this case mental, and your back is known for, hey, that's probably not going to get better, wouldn't you have a much better chance at getting the permanent and total designation provided that you get a 100% rating? Which, by the way, let's add a condition. Let's add somatic symptom disorder. Any mental condition will do here. What's the average rating? So let's just say you do average on your claim, even with all this knowledge, right? And let's say you just do average. The average rating is 70%. Let's add that. Let's see what happens. Life-changing is what just happened. like this video, share this with someone who needs it. That's what just happened. Why? Because the bilateral factor, right? Okay, of the sciatica, moderately severe, that left leg 40%, that right leg 40%, I think it is around 10% of whatever that combined bilateral is. Roughly, that's the bonus amount. Whatever it is, it gives you an actual boost of about 6.5% here, where I think it rounds up to 7 in VA math, okay? And that actually gets you to a 95% actual disability rating, which past 95, right, past the 5% mark is rounded up, and that gets you to 100%. How? Just by having your back pain, maxing it out by knowing the VA's rating system, right? You already have the back pain, you already have the nerve pain, but now you're just conveying it to the VA, translating your true symptoms into the VA's language. What do I always say? And now you're being vulnerable enough with yourself to say, hey, you know what? I have been crabby with my grandkids, my kids. I have been, short-tempered at work. I have been kind of impatient with my spouse. And yeah, I guess my back pain is kind of bugging me, I'll be honest. And you bring that to the VA, average rating for mental, that boosts you. Just started with back pain here. And now look at where you're at. Fellow vets, this is life-changing. I really hope this opened your eyes into how amazing of an opportunity you could have, in something that a lot of people would think is a negative, which is being underrated by the VA, which about 7 out of maybe 8 out of every 10 veterans are in fact underrated by the VA. So I know you can't get that time back, you can't go back in time, but from now on, this could be a massive opportunity for you. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, if you want our help, go to the first link in the description below, and I can actually help you with your VA disability rating. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Hit the like button, share this with someone who needs it. Cheers. Fellow vets, if you hurt your back during military